So the thing about the book is like there's a significant amount about my career, but it's about my life as well. So having to try and go back that far and remember things in detail is actually quite tough. But that's when people who were there with you talk about it with them to make sure you're not getting anything wrong, because it's very easy to sort of like say, oh yeah, I remember I was the best child in the history of the world. Nobody was ever. I was never naughty. I was the guy. But yeah, I spoke with my family, spoke with my friends, looked back at some of those times, and in writing the book, Hugh Ferris was the ghostwriter, and we probably sat down for probably 6 or 7, like 2, 3 hour sessions, if not more, and you're just talking and talking and talking and talking, and it was like it's the only time in my life where I've spoken about my life from like the front to the back, and that was a really strange feeling because then you kind of as you talk about it, it's like you're telling your own story. So you're laying out exactly who you are and you realize who you are. Because, say, today I'm this person, but all of a sudden you realize how you got there based on, say, the things in the past which are obviously very big, but the little details along the way that sort of made you go this way or made you go that way. So it was fun. It was nice to get some of the stuff like just out because as a player, and I think a lot of people attest to this, like there's things which you like and don't like about playing in the game, but when you're playing in the game, your job is to do the best that you can for your team. So you don't necessarily to say everything that's happened because you don't want to upset the apple cart. You want to just keep things moving, do the best that you can. But now I'm on the other side. That's actually called insight. And you're sharing stories about times that have gone by, which aren't really going to be affected in the future. So it was good to be able to say what things were actually like, as opposed to say at times as a player you get told from the outside what things are like, and you just have to agree upon it. Like someone will say, it must be great to have this manager here because he's got great experience and he's fantastic and this, that, and the other. And then you're at that point, you had to say yes or no. But the reality is it's probably not great, but you can't say no because then there's a crisis. So it's good to just be open, honest, and yeah, people can see all about that in the book. Mm, I think that's a good question because, so for me, I've never introduced myself as a footballer. People have introduced me as a footballer. Like I'm Nedum, like this is who I am. And if it ends up that we talk about what do you do for work, I'll say, well, I play football. But other people, the first thing they say is that I'm such and such, I play for this team, this is who I am. But it's never been a part of my identity, which is why I retired when I did at 34. And I was excited to start the rest of my life. So this idea of like more than just not all footballs are the same, firstly, but this is just my story. If people want to interpret that and say I'm just the same as every other footballer, that's completely up to them. But for the people who want to hear a different sort of tale, because I felt I was different within that as well, then it's there, it's open, and I wasn't actively trying to prove that I wasn't a normal footballer. I'm just telling you about my life and how it fit in within football. And as I say, it's going to be the interpretation of the reader, or at some point the listener, to decide as to whether they think that's normal or not. Yeah, so it's somewhat of a double entendre. Like you could say, it's kicking back against some of the stereotypes. It's also kicking back to just relax and listen and read and pay attention and just like soak something in. And then as well as that, I had a podcast which was Kickback with Nedum. So there's obviously a bit of branding there as well. Accidental, intentional, I don't know. It's one of those two. But that's who I am basically. I'm a very, very chilled out person. But there comes a point where I'll stick up for myself and I'll stick up for things that I believe in. And in some ways that is the concept of kicking back in itself, because that's exactly who I am. That I wanted to highlight. The interesting thing about the book is, like, I didn't say I want to hit these 5 topics, but these are things that have happened within my life which are significant. So it wasn't designed to be something which would be like preaching at anybody, because in the book I'm not trying to get anybody's opinion swayed. I'm trying to tell you my perspective and where my perspective comes from, because that's what's key for me. Like one of my biggest things that I hate is to be misunderstood, because I think I'm a good person. So I'll give you my opinion, but and then I'll explain why. And the why is the key for me. And with that, people may not agree with me, but at least they understand where I'm coming from. And I think the likes with certain of the social issues and the like that have gone on in my career, you can see through the book that sometimes leverage matters, because the issues remain the same, but the approach that I have differs depending on where I was in my life, where I was in my career, where football was at the time, where the world was at the time. But all those issues are still issues, And now I'm in a position whereby I feel I have enough leverage because I know exactly who I am and I don't fear losing anything to stand up for something I believe in. So within the book they have to get mentioned, and they do get mentioned, but they get mentioned from two contexts: the context of me looking back, and the context of me in the moment and why I did what I did. Again, that's a good question, because I think I could have achieved more, but then in the same breath, I played over 400 games for 4 clubs across 16 years. That's incredible. You know what I mean? Sometimes when I look back and really think about it, it is incredible. I was captain of a side for 3-4 years. I'm well respected everywhere that I go, and welcome back everywhere that I've been. And I know tons of people that aren't. You know, when people see me, whether it's at City, it's at Sunderland, it's at QPR, it's at Real Salt Lake, like, people are happy to see me because they liked me as a player and they love me as a person. So that makes me feel immensely proud to be able to do it for that long. So, you know, if you want to talk about medals and stuff, I'd be the same as 99% of other players who wish they would have won more medals. But in terms of having impact, I think I had real impact. And as a consequence, if you ask most people, if not all people, what they think about me as a player and as a person, you'll only hear positive things. So looking back, I have to say it was a success. Nah, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. So the thing, I'm somebody who takes in the whole picture. You know, I'm not somebody who believes that when you get to the training ground, it's like the training ground fairies that bring your boots to your locker and stuff like this, and your kit's somehow magically folded. Like, I know it's the kit man, I know it's the people doing the washing, I know that the food's coming from this person, I know the security guard does this. Like, I know the overall structure of it all. So with that, you then know that the manager is in there for longer hours, making less money, having more stress, and having less job security. And I think to myself, like, as a 35-year-old, you see people like going up to like Roy Hodgson's age, do I want to do this for 40 years? Do I want to live my life again doing this thing? And, you know, you can have an impact. But, like, success is relative, but for most managers, like, it always seems to lead in sackings and having to move around here, there, and wherever. And I'm trying to settle down in one place. I'm trying to enjoy that feeling of knowing that this place is home, instead of home being wherever I can find work. So, absolutely not. I've got no interest in doing it whatsoever, but I still think I can have an impact within football clubs, whether it's mentoring, whether it's just speaking with people in general, or just being inside. Like, I work for Manchester City's charity, City in the Community. You know, that has impact as well. And it gives me a chance to be able to help the local community, which are all across the city, which I've been a part of, you know, for most of my life. So, yeah, the management side of things, no, the guys that choose to do it, fair enough. But again, like I said earlier, I've never introduced myself as a player because football isn't necessarily part of my identity. So to feel that I have to stay in football, it's not for me. And I made a point of that by not doing any coaching badges. I made the call from very early doors. There's not going to be any thought of, well, you know, I've got the badges and I might do this. It's like, nah, I'm retired and I'm officially not qualified to be able to do said job. So I'm going to go and do something else.